Now, you know that feeling that when you're close or this close to just giving up on something and then at the last second, everything changes. Well, that was me with XRP. Now, for about 5 years, I kind of felt like I was stuck in a never-ending courtroom drama, Ripple versus the SEC, day in, day out. It was basically Law and Order meets Groundhog Day, playing on repeat. And we were all just stuck watching. But guess what? The saga finally ended, and it feels like we just got released from crypto purgatory. Now, I'm sitting here kind of grinning like an idiot because, well, the future that seemed impossible for so long might actually be just around the corner. And if you hold XRP too, you're probably going to want to hear this story because I did some digging with a little help from the AI or 2AI oracles, and I actually uncovered just how high XRP might go now that its biggest nightmare is actually over. And trust me here, right? You're going to want to stick around for this one because what I found left me absolutely floored. Now, when the news hit that Ripple's battle with the SEC is officially over, I almost spit out my coffee. And I'm not even kidding, right? 1 minute I'm just doom scrolling on Twitter, and the next I see Ripple's chief legal officer practically declaring victory and saying, all right, folks, back to business. Now, crypto Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called these days, absolutely lost its collective mind. Rocket emojis everywhere, memes of Ripple's logo, body slamming the SEC, you name it, right? Hashtag XRP Army was trending, and I spotted a few people who used to trash XRP now coming out, to offer congratulations. Now, the reversal in sentiment was just insane to witness. It kind of felt like we all had just won a championship after years of being the underdogs. Now, the SEC and Ripple, they both filed a motion to dismiss their appeals, effectively putting this ugly 5-year feud to bed. Now, for those who haven't been following along, the SEC originally sued Ripple back in December of 2020, accusing it of selling XRP as an unregistered security. That was the bombshell, right? Or at least a bombshell. And XRP's price tanked, and a bunch of exchanges, even Coinbase, suspended trading of XRP. It kind of felt like our favorite coin got exiled from the crypto world. We spent years in limbo. Then came a turning point in 2023 when a judge ruled that XRP itself is not a security when sold on exchanges. Bit of a huge sigh of relief. Now, in 2025, by both sides dropping their appeals, Ripple and the SEC have officially waved the white flag. Case closed, finally. And with that, we finally have the regulatory green light on our side. Now, XRP isn't considered a security in the day-to-day use. So that threat, at least that once kind of loomed over every XRP holder, the fear that our coin could be deemed illegitimate is gone, just like that. It's kind of hard to overstate what a relief that is for the community, right? We even saw proof, after XRP's big court win in 2023 that major exchanges like Coinbase promptly relisted it for trading in the United States. Now, with the lawsuit completely over, there is no reason for anyone to really hold back. XRP is officially back to business everywhere. And here's a fun fact to just savor. As of today, XRP has clawed its way back to the third largest cryptocurrency by market valuation, only behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. Not too bad for a coin that many had written off as dead, at least during the lawsuit, huh? Now, by the way, XRP has surprised a lot of us with this before, right? During the epic 2017 bull run, it even leapfrogged Ethereum for a short while to become the number 2 cryptocurrency by market capitalization. So hey, maybe history could rhyme if things really do go our way. And do you know what happened immediately after the case was wrapped up? Well, XRP went pretty wild, right? I watched the price on my phone shoot up to over 12% in a single day, rocketing to about $3.35. It was kind of like watching a kind of weight lift off of the entire community's shoulders, right? Years of uncertainty gone in a poof, right? And suddenly, everybody was asking, how high can XRP go now? Even my buddy who used to call me crazy for holding this Banker's Coin, sent me a message that day say, "Oh, looks like you might be onto something with XRP." I just replied with a winky face. Gotta love the sweet feeling of vindication. Now, here is where my inner nerd, of course, took over, right? I decided to go and get a second opinion on XRP's future from none other than artificial intelligence. I hopped onto ChatGPT and even tried Elon Musk's new AI buddy, Grok, basically Elon's version of ChatGPT, with a little bit of a snarky streak to it. Anyway, I asked them point blank, so how high can XRP realistically go now that the lawsuit monkey is off of its back? And their answers kind of blew my mind. Both AI models basically told me that XRP to $5 is totally on the table, potentially by late 2025 or even early 2026. Now that sounds like just around the corner in crypto terms, right? Now, what is wild is that this lines up perfectly with what some humans have been saying too. Now, the bots, they didn't stop there. Like, they laid out why $5 isn't as far-fetched as it may have sounded a few years ago. Right? They pointed to things like fresh liquidity pouring in. Imagine big news, at least on new investors kind of finally feeling safe to jump into XRP right now. They talked about institutional money flowing, like banks or even funds buying XRP for the first time. And they highlighted a key factor, a strong altcoin cycle where Bitcoin's dominance drops off a little bit, giving coins like XRP more room to run. In fact, Bitcoin's share of the crypto market has been slipping lately. It's down about 6.5% over the past month. And guess who's been outperforming Bitcoin during that dip? And yeah, you're right, it's XRP. Now, it's like the stars are finally lining up in our favor. The chatbots even hinted that once XRP blows past its old all-time high, this was around $3.84 from 2018, it could actually ignite a frenzy of optimism in the market. And I can practically see the FOMO headlines. XRP hits new all-time high. Next stop, $5. Now look, right, at this point I can practically hear the moon boy inside of me yelling $5, here we come. But let's hold on for a second, because this one might just shock you. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so now that we've got my responsible adult moment out of the way, let's get back to the fun stuff then, right? Because hitting $5 is one thing. What about $10? Right? I can almost hear some of you guys thinking, sure, $5 would be great, but didn't hold XRP through all of this drama just for 5x. When Lambo? When $10? Don't worry. You're not alone, right? I've been picturing that $10 target myself, and not just because it's a nice round number. So, I did ask our AI friends about the $10 scenario too, and they had some pretty interesting thoughts. First, let's talk scale, right? $10 doesn't sound like much in everyday terms, but for XRP, that would be roughly $600 billion of market cap, about triple what it is now. That's a lot of money, right? But it doesn't actually represent liquidity, so let's not get tripped up about that. But in order to get to this $600 billion, the AI said that XRP would need some major kind of global adoption to get there. I disagree, but, AI says it, so let's see what it has to say. Now, we are, of course, talking about big banks in this scenario and payment providers all over the world actively using XRP. So picture Bank of America, HSBC, and even major banks that you can name moving funds with XRP in seconds instead of waiting days for old school wire transfers. Now, if that happens, $10 might even end up looking conservative. And I agree, it would definitely be conservative in those scenarios. Now, I'm talking widespread use of Ripple payments tech by big banks and remittance companies. Basically, XRP becoming the go-to to move money internationally. And we've already done case studies on showing how only $10 billion could drive the price towards $90 based on how thin the order books are. So it's a plausible situation that $10 really is not that far-fetched. And you know what? Ripple is already making moves in that particular direction too, right? Literally a couple days ago, Ripple announced that it's acquiring a company called Rail for $200 million. Why? To kind of beef up its global stablecoin payments network. And as if that wasn't enough, Ripple has teamed up with BNY Mellon, the oldest bank in the United States, to custody its new stablecoin RLUSD reserves. That's a huge trust signal. It's kind of like saying, hey, traditional finance, come on in. The water is fine. Now, if more banks around the world start using Ripple's tech, and by extension XRP, to grease the wheels of cross-border transactions, hitting $10 starts to look a hell of a lot less crazy. Now, the AI bots also brought up another catalyst, ETFs, and institutional inflows. Ethereum had I think it's a $5 billion inflow in July alone. Now, imagine an XRP ETF finally getting approved, right? Talk about a wall of money just waiting to rush on in. And remember those thin order books that I mentioned earlier? Well, that could get pretty crazy pretty fast. And let's not forget partnerships, right? The chatbots mentioned things like SBI in Japan already using XRP for transactions. That's huge because SBI isn't some tiny startup. It's a major financial player. So if XRP is good enough for big institutions in one part of the world, well, others will start to take notice. Now, according to my AI crystal ball, XRP could reach that $10 mark sometimes between 2028 and 2030. I disagree, but and I know, who wants to kind of wait that long, right? But that is just a conservative take. They also hinted that it could happen significantly sooner if we get an altcoin super cycle, right? Basically one of those kind of crazy crypto bull runs where everything kind of goes 10x and institutions are piling in like it's the new gold rush. And honestly, after seeing how quickly sentiment flipped once the SEC case closed, I wouldn't rule that a faster timeline either. All right, it's kind of moonshot time then. $20 XRP might actually not be moonshot for you guys, but that's kind of what the AI thinks. At $20, XRP's market cap would be over $1.2 trillion. And yes, that was with a T, instantly making it one of the most valuable assets on the planet. But of course, we're talking market cap, which is insanely misleading. And we have seen multiplying effects of liquidity by a good 500 times for the market cap. So take it with a pinch of salt. Anyway, we're talking Apple and Amazon territory with a $1.2 trillion market cap. Now, according to the AIs, reaching $20 means XRP basically has to become the global standard for moving money. Again, I disagree with the AI here. This is a case of shit in, shit out, but we're going to go and run with it so, I don't misquote the AI and artificial intelligence here. Anyway, this is near universal adoption, apparently, at least for cross-border sentiments, right? Now, achieving or effectively kind of rivaling, I should say, or even replacing the current system, SWIFT, in major financial corridors. There's a huge ask here, and even Ripple's CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, has thrown out a kind of bold vision, saying that XRP's ledger could capture up to 14% of SWIFT's volume in just 5 years. Now, with all of this, I think it's kind of important to just kind of think about what we've just discussed here, because what the AI is assuming here is that your liquidity, your inflows of actual cash, actual dollars, is exactly equal to the market cap, which it is not, right? Market cap is calculated on the last traded price. I have purchased XRP for sub 10 cents. I still hold that same XRP right now, right? So my 10 cents, let's say, XRP, is actually now $3.30, right? So the market cap assumes that my XRP is worth $3.30, but I actually only pay 10 cents for it. And so you can see the disconnect here, right? Market cap is misleading, it doesn't show you the liquidity. And in these AI models, all they're doing is assuming that inflows, physical cash, equals market cap, which it doesn't. There's a multiplying effect that's actually happening here. So and it does cut both ways, by the way, okay? If you had $10 billion of selling pressure or $10 billion of buying pressure, it's going to go up or it's going to go down accordingly, okay? Supply and demand conquer everything else. So when it comes to thinking about how thin those order books are, and when we say thin, it means if we have $10 billion of buying pressure and we only have like, I don't know, $1 billion of selling pressure, well, we've got $9 billion where we have to find people willing to sell. And those sellers are higher in the price chart. So price goes and finds sellers, right? That's how it works. And so as a result, you tend to find that price is gravitating upwards to find or to try to entice people to sell their XRP. Now, if the order book stayed static as they are and you had $10 billion in right away, then you would shoot straight up to about $90. But that isn't realistic either, right? That's just pure, I guess, pure hopium. No one sells between where it is and $90, right? But that would be just foolish. Instead, what you tend to find is there will be more increased selling pressure. So $10 billion in, starting with a $1 billion sell wall, you might find that actually we probably cap out at around maybe $20 or $30 because of the significant increase in selling pressure as that buy pressure comes into the market. This is why ETFs are so critically important here, right? Outside of the actual utility, an ETF, such as we saw with Ethereum with $5 billion flowing in, has such a dramatic effect on the market price. So if we were to see and match just what, Ethereum ETFs have done in the last month, $5 billion in, we could see, I reckon $10 to $15 on XRP's price relatively quickly, assuming that the sell pressure doesn't mount up alongside it. So we've got to keep a close eye on the order books and on the supply and the demand metrics. I would really not care too much about what market cap is. Market cap will do whatever market cap needs to do based on the mechanics of the supply and the demand and the price. The price dictates the market cap. The market cap can never be a barrier to the price discovery. And there is more, right? For $20 to happen, according to the AI, we would need, mass tokenization of assets on the XRP ledger as well. So, the AI thinks real estate, stocks, commodities, and getting represented all as tokens, right? Now, that is really important to also understand. I think the AI has really kind of just assumed that cash in equals market cap, and we haven't actually given this AI model any context behind that, and it's kind of gone off a little bit on down a trail here. But just imagine, right, if you do have all that tokenization going on, imagine being able to buy and sell even just a slice of a house or a stock on the XRP ledger. Every one of those tokenized transactions could be using XRP behind the scenes. Now, of course, that kind of activity could send demand through the roof as well. So the total market cap for tokenized assets, it could hit $50 trillion by 2030, right? And those assets, again, they do not necessarily represent liquidity. They're just a value of these markets, right? It's like gold. You couldn't liquidate all gold for, $22.5 trillion or whatever it is, right? It's impossible to do that. So you'd have slippage within the market. Now, $50 trillion of value is one thing. How much actual cash could that see go through? It would still be rather significant, even if we were to say it was an 80-20 rule and 20% was liquid, right? Very, very interesting kind of mechanics here. Now, if XRP's tech grabs even just a slice of the 50 trillion, well, that's game on then, right? And we'd also need to be, the crypto market basically stay pretty bullish for a rather long time with no kind of devastating crashes either. So keep an eye on those exchanges, right? In other words, a kind of perfect sunny weather for crypto, plus clear regulations everywhere, so big that institutions don't get too scared to jump on in. It's a pretty tall order under this AI assumption. Now, I'm not going to lie, right? $20 is, a pretty decent long shot, for now, but I don't think it's impossible, not like the AI is kind of hinting at. Now, even my buddy Grok here, only kind of gives us about a 20 to 30% probability by 2030. And hey, I mean, shit in, shit out. I don't believe that to be true. But hey, a 1 in 4 chance is not 0. So yeah, I'll take it, I guess. And remember, right, these are just predictions by AI, right? Crypto has a habit of humbling anyone. And well, I think it could also humble the AI here too. Now, Grok was a lot more optimistic about $5 and fairly bullish on $10 too. So here's how I kind of break it all down then, right? $5 feels almost inevitable eventually. $10 is a solid maybe, and $20, according to the AI, is a crazy moonshot. Who knew? So here I am, right, sitting at my desk, actually kind of feeling rather optimistic about XRP's future and kind of wanting to go back to these AI models and give them a bit more context about, market cap overall. Now, crazy thing is what a little regulatory kind of clarity can do, right? It's pretty insane. Now, for the longest time, being an XRP holder felt like being a bit of a butt of a joke, right? We were the chosen ones, right? Holding for the dear life while others made, quick gains everywhere else. Now, on the tables, we actually have, or at least the tables have actually turned, right? We have seen the XRP cloud finally gone. It's like XRP has a new lease of life. Now, if this journey has taught me anything, it's the value of patience and conviction, right? There were so many moments that I questioned myself over the years, especially when the FUD was at its peak, but holding through all of the chaos is starting to feel a little bit more worthwhile. Now, I should also mention that a lot of us XRP community have really kind of banded together through all of this, right? And it's kind of like if you're looking for a place to kind of hang out with fellow XRP believers, then we've got a free educational Discord server where we chat all day about the news, rumors, and strategy. The invite link is in the description. And for me, I'm not just holding, right? I'm strategizing my next moves too. Now that this legal saga is history, any dip in price feels bit like an opportunity, not financial advice, of course. Remember the disclaimer. Now, I do most of my trading on Kraken, right? Because I actually like how low their fees are and how easy their interface is. I do have an affiliate link for Kraken. It's in the description down below. So if you do use it, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help support the channel here. So thank you in advance. Now, whatever happens next, whether we kind of peak at $5, charge towards $10, or maybe even flirt with $20 plus, one thing is for sure, it's an exciting time to be an XRP holder, right? We earned this moment and we've waited a very long time for it. All of that patience is finally starting to pay off. And even though nothing is ever guaranteed in crypto, I have a feeling that the next chapter is going to be one heck of a ride. I'm just happy that I get to share the journey with all of you guys. So for now, you can smash that like button, you can subscribe for more XRP adventures, and I'll catch you all in the next one.